Hey everybody, it's Rebel Builder. In this video series, I wanted to do something different. I wanted to give a behind the scenes of what it takes to build one of my MOCs. So I actually filmed myself building my TIE bomber. Very proud of this MOC. It's actually one of my favorites that I've built so far. So I filmed myself building it. I talked to the camera some. I talk about some creative tips, some ideas, different techniques I try, things work out, things that don't work out. So hopefully you enjoy this, hopefully you learn from this. So please give me some feedback down in the comments below if this is something you'd like to see more of, and maybe this will turn into some sort of video series. But definitely let me know if this is something you enjoy or if this is just way too long. It's actually going to be about 1 hour and 40 minutes total. I think my total build time on the whole TIE bomber was probably about 9 hours. So I cut it down to this. Hopefully I give you the good bits and hopefully this is enjoyable. So again, leave me some comments down below and thumbs up this video. And if you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button, and I hope you enjoy this. Now the first place I start when I'm building a MOC is I gather as much information, as much source material as I can. And that starts with the blueprints, if I can find them. For most of the main TIE fighters, the TIE Fighter, TIE Interceptor, TIE Bomber, you can find these online with a really quick Google search. And I use a CAD program and I'm able to manipulate the size that these come out. And so it all starts with my TIE Fighter, that I took the plans for the TIE Fighter and I lined it up with the size of the First Order TIE Fighter. And I think the size of those, the solar panels, the side wings are about 9 inches. And so I use that to kind of resize and judge my TIE Fighter, my TIE Interceptor, and then the same thing for the TIE Bomber, so that mainly this piece here is generally the same size. It's the same cockpit piece is going to be the same size on all of them, giving me roughly the same scale of all of my TIE Fighter MOCs. And that's something that's important to me. I wanted them all to look like they all belong together, like they're part of the same line. So I use these to literally kind of measure pieces off of and kind of go off of some of these details, but this is where it starts. Okay, I got my plans. I'm going to start building here. I'm going to start with the wings. I'm going to keep calling them wings because saying solar panels will get kind of old. So I'm going to start with that because that's the part that I have the best idea of how I'm going to do it. And that'll also help give me the proportion I need to kind of work through this middle part. That's going to be a challenge. I haven't figured out how I'm going to do that yet. So let's get started. Got a bunch of black wedge plates here. And I also have my TIE Interceptor, my TIE Fighter back here. The TIE Interceptor is going to give me the best idea. I'm going to use this section here for the width and how tall it is. And then I'll obviously have to go by the plan here to make it this long. And I'm just pulling out different parts here just to get me started. I know I need some light bluish gray plates, my black wedge plates, my gray wedge plates. By the time that I'm done, my whole table will be a disaster here. Door rails, use a lot of these. I'm actually going to take one of these sections off my TIE Interceptor here. It doesn't stand up very well when it's not balanced. So this is what I'm going to go off of. I'm going to replicate like this section and theoretically just make it longer. So we'll see how that goes. So I think my wings here are going to be 29 studs long. We'll see how that works out. I just put a plate here on here, a really long one, to hold this together so that I can work on building some of the other structure here. Need some hinges. You're really kind of limited with the angles that you can come up with. I can get this angle exactly correct, and I had that problem on the back of the TIE Interceptor here too. You just kind of have to do what you can, get as close as you can, and decide what you're going to live with. I love it when I can just reach up here and I know exactly what I need, and it's in exactly the right spot that I remember. I usually kind of rearrange my parts here and forget where I put something and end up spending 5 minutes looking for one part. Okay, so I think I have more or less one section of gray plates, so the middle section of what'll be the wings here. So now I'm going to start laying some black plates and black wedge plates on it, kind of start to hold it together. And my first step is just trying to get the structure on. I'm going to come back and I'll probably have to change some of this stuff to add details. You know, I want to do some tiles on it like I've done on my other MOCs, and I want my TIE bomber to match these two ships. So stylistically, I'm going to make it look as close to those as I can. Okay, there's the structure of one quarter of the solar panels or the wings. I definitely need to come back and fill this in on each side. But for now, I'm going to use this to build the middle part and get the whole section together and make sure that I like how it looks before I start adding the detail. I've got my coffee here. My routine is there's a couple of days a week where I get up before the family does and come down to my little studio here and build when it's nice and quiet. I'm much more of a morning person as far as creativity goes. The idea of staying up late to do a build, you know, I just want to go to bed. So, and I often get asked where I get my parts. All my parts come from either Bricklink, so mostly Bricklink, or they're sets that I've bought and I reviewed and have taken apart, but mostly Bricklink. And one of the things that sets me back the most when I do a build like this is I think I have the parts. You know, I build for a week and then I need to get some more parts off Bricklink, and that takes a week, and then all of a sudden something I thought I'd get to do in a week ends up taking a month. So if you want me to do more MOCs and you get impatient why I can't get it done sooner, that's a big reason. All right, there we go, starting to take a little shape. And since I'm still in the experimentation or design phase, I'm going to build this section, and then I will start on the middle, and maybe I'll look at some detailed pictures that I've collected on my phone and stuff. But I'm going to do that, do the whole first side of this, you know, get this completely done, and so when I go to the other side I can just replicate it. I'm not like kind of designing two sections at once where, you know, this I know I'm gonna have to take apart and put back together and take apart until I get it right. So I'm gonna do that with just one section. It's kind of nice to get to use some of these really big light bluish gray wedge plates I've been having sit around here. Okay, I think that's the section I'm gonna go with. You never know until you get it all put together. You can look at some pictures, you know, but for now, this is what I'm gonna go with. So now I'm trying to figure out where I wanna make the connections to the body. You know, I have these sections here, and this is how my main body on the interceptor hooks in. So I'm just trying to look at the schematic here and kind of position it and build it the same way that this one is. And I flipped it around. I'm gonna do the connection like on this section here. Over back here I had some more flimsy plates. I have a 1x6 and a 6x6, where this one I have this big plate section here. So I'm gonna use this to kind of be where I'm gonna line things up. See, already I'm starting to take things apart. So I'm gonna run these strips of gray through here and break up the black. Brick separators are great, but they're hard to pull plates off a plate, so sometimes I use another brick, kind of grab it off of there, and then I can peel it off. And one thing I already don't like about my design is this plate. I'm going to have a 6x2, and I'm going to have the same kind of style on the outside with some tiles, like my interceptor. And this lines up directly with this hinge, so I want to shift all the hinges around by one stud so that this connection is split over the hinges, and that's a little bit of a stronger connection. Anytime you can offset those connections, you know, it makes it for more of a sturdy build without adding a ton of extra parts. You know, after building my other ties, that's something I've kind of learned, that I'm trying to make it a little more sound, a little more structurally sound. And my black plates are just in this bucket here, and I at least have them separated out that I have wedge plates and then regular plates. I haven't really built with black that much before all these TIE fighters, so I'm not as organized with my black parts as I am my light bluish gray parts. And my intention is to use the same connection design as my other two ties. We'll see how that goes. You know, maybe I'll get down the road a little bit and end up changing that. That happens at least every project. That piece worked out. I needed a 12 by 2 plate, and glad that fit. It's always nice to use those big long pieces to give it some rigidity. I'm going to do some black plates on either side, and might call that inside section kind of done for now. There's my connections. You can see if I was just building a goofy looking TIE fighter, you know, that'll connect right in there like that. Fold them down. There we go. That's kind of a start to things starting to take shape. I like that I can use these long 1 by black plates here to span where I have all these hinges, so that I can actually move these hinges. On the interceptor, you know, these connections are a little more flimsy, so every time I move them, it kind of pops apart, but I like that this one is going to be pretty strong. And I'm going to need to go back and look at some pictures to see if I'm getting the coloring right. I know that on the interceptor in the back there's a strip of light bluish gray, kind of going off of that for now, but I can come back and change it later. So as I'm looking down at my plan here, you know, I've got my TIE interceptor body. I know I have this on backwards here. I'm just looking down at the schematic, the front view, and I'm trying to kind of judge some size here, and I can already tell my TIE fighter had the widest section, and then I narrowed the section for the TIE interceptor to make it a little smaller. I think for this span I'm gonna have to narrow it even more for the TIE bomber. And since I kind of need to think about this for a second, whenever I'm doing a build and I kind of get to a point where I think I might be stuck a little bit, I go to another spot that I can work on that, and I kind of already have an idea. So I'm gonna flip to the other side of the wings here, and I'm gonna start to do some of these tiles, these little details in the middle here. I pull all these little drawers out as I'm building and end up with, you know, at least a dozen of these by the time I'm done. So part of my process. But see, already just adding some of these details, that kind of, it helps you get a little excited. It feels like you're making progress, and you know, you're kind of on the right path. So sometimes that's important. If you just focused on the structure the whole time, you know, it gets kind of hard to keep that in mind when you're maybe getting less excited about how it's going to turn out, whereas really it's a combination of the structure and the details. I'm going to look at some pictures on my phone here. I use this note called Evernote, and it's kind of a way you can build these notebooks. I don't have a great handle on it, but you can put pictures in here. So I have this notebook called a TIE Bomber, where I have just different pictures and images I've collected online. There was a great little video I saw on tested.com where they were interviewing a guy who built a model as close as he could, as much of a replica of the original model that they used in Empire Strikes Back, to the point where he was spent years and years collecting model kit parts and trying to match the exact model kit part that they used back in, you know, say the late 70s to build the real model, so that he could use the exact same parts. So they had a little video. I did some screen captures, and I think this is probably my best reference piece here. But you can see I've just got these different pictures here, so I can scroll through here on my phone, kind of get an idea of what I'm looking at. And see, already I'm noticing that the inside of the wings of the middle section, that's completely gray. So already I need to go back, swap out all this black for some gray. I have a bucket back here. These are some of the very specific TIE fighter parts I've been collecting. I've got the cockpit windshield, the tops of the TIE fighter. Collected quite a few of these, and I kind of haven't been sure what exactly I would need for some of these TIE fighter builds. But here I collected a whole bunch of these round printed tiles that have the little pattern that's used on all these TIE fighters. So definitely wanted to include that. Here I have a whole thing of these modified tiles. These are really good for taking up space, giving you some smooth sections, but they still have some studs, so it helps break up that whole stud tile pattern. And I'm just making this up as I go. You know, this whole section would be black. You know, I like the look of kind of the random tiles and just kind of eyeballing it. See, already that's really starting to take some shape. You know, really starting to look like, you know, a TIE bomber MOC era. So once you get these little moments where it's like you put on the right few parts, get a little detail, you get a little excited, helps keep you going. Make sure you stick with the MOC and follow it through. My workspace kind of gets smaller and smaller as I work on these projects. I pull out more parts and I have to stop and move everything back, put some parts away. All right, there's kind of the outside. It feels solid with the 4 hinges instead of the 2. The way I kind of offset some of these plates, it feels a little more sturdy than my other TIE MOC. So feeling good about that. It's a lot of black though. I made some changes to the wing sections here. I got this section built and then I studied it for a couple of days. I go look at some pictures online and then, you know, I kind of look at this. I'll keep it upstairs like while I'm cooking dinner or whatever. The black section was too much for me, so I had to dial it back, trying to figure out how I could do that. So I added a row of tiles and reduced the layer of black by 1 stud, and I'm much happier with that. The other thing I did is I had some black hinges in here just because that's what I had in my pile, and just enough of the black on the inside here was enough to kind of detract from that. So I went and looked at my shelf, saw that I had my snow speeders that had those hinges underneath, so you couldn't even see those hinges, so I swapped those out for the black ones and got to use the gray ones on here. So I'm pretty happy with this for now, so I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to start working on the body. I have some ideas, but you never know till you actually do it. So like my other designs, I'm going to start with these wedge pieces. So my idea is I'm going to generally build it like this, have a connection and have another section similar here, and the back section is very long, so I kind of have an idea, but I'm gonna have to see how that one turns out. These connection points, these slopes here, those are going to be different. That's going to need a different design. The TIE bomber has these really angular pieces that stick up kind of high into the wings here, the solar panels. So for now, I'm just going to kind of build these structurally. I can do the wedges here, but I'm trying to get the pieces in place so I can start building it to get a sense of scale. And then I'll come back and kind of work on some of those details. Again, I'm just going to build one of these for now, work on this side, and that way when I make a bunch of changes to this, then when I go to the other side I can just replicate what I've already designed. So one question for me is, does the TIE bomber have lasers in the front? So I'm going to look at some pictures here. I really don't think so, so I'm going to leave them off. Just using this as a spacer to kind of give me an idea of how long it's going to be, just give me a little perspective on size. So then you start to kind of hold it up, put it together, and yeah, that might work. The interior of these ships is a really good way to use up my old, kind of chewed up, old blocks that I've had for a long time. I'm thinking the connection between the two pods is going to be about 4 studs deep. Just a little planning there. So say that's going to be like that. A lot thicker than the side sections here. And one idea I had is throwing in splashes of sand blue. Now for one, I like on the TIE Striker how they added sand blue. I think it's my favorite color in LEGO. But the TIE Bombers and the TIE Fighters and Empire Strikes Back, they have a much more blue hue, to the point where if they had enough parts, I would actually probably build a TIE Fighter out of all just sand blue. But by just adding a few splashes here and there of sand blue throughout the model, I think that'll kind of give it a little more of that that vibe, I guess. Now I can use the 1x3s just to kind of give me an idea, and maybe I have enough 1x3s I could actually accomplish what I want to accomplish, but for the look and style of it, I'll probably order 2x3s. So these pieces don't work because they actually have the little lip. They stick out further. They're not going to be flush with this layer here, which is what I want. So I got to pull all these off, and I got to use the bricks that have studs on the side. I was hoping to use those because I have a ton of these. So I'm going to use light bluish gray on the ends, but in general I think these are going to be hidden. So I'm going to use a lot of dark bluish gray on the inside. I've even got some red and stuff, I could use those. Now it really looks like a real Lego set when I got all these crazy colors on the inside. Well, I think I like this design enough. I don't have that in the right spot. I think I at least like that concept enough that I'm going to start building the other section here. But, you know, kind of put this together here. There we go. Starting to kind of feel like a TIE Bomber. Right now I'm trying to judge by looking at my schematic here to see if that's the right width that I want to have going across there. And I have to say that that's pretty close. I'm gonna go with that. I don't know that I'm gonna have these slopes under here. I think this may get built across with bricks and some details, but for now I'm gonna leave it. I don't know how I'm gonna do the front here. That's another one of those question marks that I'm just kind of ignoring for now. I don't know if it'll be a plate. I don't know if that'll look very good. You know, one design aspect I considered, that's why I have this piece, this droid escape pod sitting here, is there's these round cylinder pieces, and that's about the right size. I considered using those for the back. You know, because really that's how the TIE Bomber looks. It's like these two cylinders that go all the way back instead of kind of the round ball of the TIE Fighter. But I just couldn't in my mind figure out a way to kind of transition from this kind of thing with the cockpit to the round cylinder. Maybe something like this design-wise would kind of work, and I'm still going to keep thinking, but for now I think I'm going to go with my design here. So now I'm building the other side connection here, and I did start my second set of wings, or the solar panels. I didn't get very far, so pretty soon I'm going to need to get those going too. So for now I'm going to build up the front section just like this. That's going to be one of the biggest challenges to get the look right, is pulling off this front here. There's one piece I have in mind and I can't find them. I've got two of them that were from my Millennium Falcon. I don't know where they are. starting to get a sense of the weight and size of this thing. This really will be a pretty big vehicle. This is a challenge, getting all of these studs to line up in the right spot. Now I'm gonna have to study some pictures to see if I can come up with a way to break this up. Maybe I just need some lines of dark bluish gray in here. That's gonna be one aspect of, I'll need to get some detail going back here, because this will get a little boring. So I got a bricklink order in, and I got 80 of these 2x3 round slopes. That's kind of a critical piece here in the design. It's always cool when you can order a big pile of the same kind of part. But now I'm going to start building up these sides to kind of get an idea of how this is going to shape out. I'm kind of excited about that. Another thought I had is kind of the strength of this thing. As I pick it up, you know, it flexes here in the middle, and I think my idea is I want to build like some Technic supports that go through here and connect here, so that when you pick this thing up, you know, if you pick it up by one side, because I think it's actually going to be kind of awkward to, you know, swoosh around the room, but I'm going to build some Technic support, so hopefully this thing doesn't flex and it's pretty strong. The one thing I'm worried about with this design or this technique is that it's going to be too monotonous, that it's just going to be too round and smooth. So I'm just going for shape right now, and once I kind of build it up a little more, then I'm going to go back and look at adding some detail to it. This is a little frustrating when I'm building, you know, and then I get to a critical piece like this that I really need for my design, and you know, I get stuck without it. I have to wait a week for the bricklink order to come in. It kind of slows me down. I'm always trying to create overlap between, you know, layers like this, just to make it that much stronger. So if you can move something, you know, by one stud and get things to offset, just to give it that much more strength, that always helps. See, this keeps falling apart, and that's not something I want out of my MOC. I think the other thing that's causing problems here is this doesn't really fit with the round slope underneath this connection here. So I'm gonna take those off for now, and I gotta change something. And I'm looking at my plan again here. See, now that I got these round pieces in here, it's like this is pretty close inside of here. I have a 4x6 plate there. I'm wondering if I need to make it 7 studs apart. I do think I'm going to do that. It's an odd number, but you know, it presents a challenge with parts. But you know, with those challenges, you also can come up with some cool solutions, and maybe down the road it'll lead to a cool looking design for whatever reason. So I'm gonna give it a shot. See there, as I line these up with my plan down here, the cylinders, that seems to fit a lot better. And even the front section too. Okay. All right, so I think I'm going to focus on this middle section now. Part of my bricklink haul here is I also got these 8x8 dishes. Now I had some I know I have at least 2 of these around here somewhere from my parted out Millennium Falcon. Can't find them. That's one frustrating thing about my whole collection here is, you know, I got so many parts and you try to be organized, but I feel like the more organized I get, I'm just losing some specialized parts. You know, I don't have a specific spot for something like this. And who knows, I'm sure as soon as I finish the build, I'll find them. My plan for these is they're going to go on the back. I think that'll work pretty well. And then maybe for the front, I don't know how I'm going to do the front of the bomber section. I mean, that doesn't work with this side design, so I don't know if I'll do that or since I have a 6 stud cockpit piece here, maybe I do the 6 on the front. I don't know, we'll see.